Hi, this is Tom Jacobs from tdjacobs.com and also healingsuicide.com. And I'm an evolutionary astrologer, channel medium, energy worker, intuitive. And this is another installment in a series of videos about grief. I just got some reflection from an ongoing coaching client that he's listened to all these recordings or watched all these videos, and he said to me at the end, I said, yeah, I gotta grieve some things. It's like a kind of a new thing. And I realized, yeah, it's a new thing for a lot of people. I'm totally misquoting him, so if you're watching this, don't don't take offense. But anyway, that sense of like, well, and then at the end, his guide said, yeah, and be aware that the experience of time can change when you're really doing it. So what I want to do in this video is, um, how long should grief take? How long should it take? There's no answer. It's the sorry. Thanks for watching. No, it's this unfolding experience, and there's no answer because you have to experience it. And if you hold back something that's painful or creates sorrow or something that you haven't grieved, if you hold it back, it will define you. That resistance can define you. If you go into it, it can occupy quite a lot of your attention because your frequency changes. Some part of you says, I'm sad, or everything's hopeless, or what's the point, right? Some part of you brings forward a very heavy emotion. And as you may have heard me teach in different places, if you think you are your emotions, then you're not actively managing yourself. So I try to help you understand how to actively work with your emotions. That's why the ground process and the lower chakra, the chakra course, but also the putting your attention in your feet and your lower body and making sure your attention is spread out through your whole body. The program Tiger Iron, another client today reflected that he's finding that helpful in this way, to be in the body and be centered. But how long it take, who knows? But if you hold yourself back from it, it'll dominate your life. If you go into it, things might slow down and you might feel a kind of heavy thing that lingers. So that is sometimes normal. Now, you do have to live your life. So this is one reason why some of us might not want to grieve or go into sadness or sorrow or something. Loss, the feelings of loss, because we don't want to get lost in our feelings. We don't want to get stuck because as soon as we go in there, suddenly we're taken over and the thing is, it's like a dark cloud hanging over us and everything's sadder. I had somebody years ago ask me, how can I deal with my hopelessness and recover and not ruin things for other people? And the answer is, you understand that what you're experiencing is important to experience, and you'll never go back to some assumption of safety. Which sounds terrible. Hold on, I got to say that a better way. You'll never go back to some sunny version of how life is supposed to be with this assumption that if you didn't feel pain, then you must be doing it right. So if you truly go into grieving something, some people fear becoming hardened, right? But you'll really become deepened because you're, a deepening process, because you're allowing a complex range of emotions that, operate on multiple levels within you and maybe go down into your psychic sub-basements, so to speak, where everyone would like to be on floors 1 through 3, but sometimes you got to go down to the third basement, and clean stuff up. So you're changed when you deal with grief or pain of any kind. Does that mean you can't enjoy things later? No, it does not mean you can't enjoy things later. And my recommendation, like I say, you got to live your life. This is how I would encourage you to think about this. And this is part of the COVID-19 series of videos regarding the grief that more people have time alone. You're spending time alone with your crummy memories, your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs about the world, your conspiracy theory ideas, whatever, your paranoia. You're can't stop touching your face. Sorry. You're spending a lot more time alone or with certain people, so you're have more attention to feel things, right? That's how I described it to my students in a Saturn in Aquarius class the other day, or my subscribers. And I said, you're sequestered basically with your crummy beliefs. So if you go into them, they'll seem to take over. And I talked about before, witnessing and not believing they are who you are, etc. But this idea of like, I'll never be the same. If I admit how that feels, I won't ever be the same. And the answer is, yeah, that's true. You won't ever be the same. But I want you to realize that deepening effect by dealing with grief makes you a better, a more well-rounded, a deeper person with a more of a willingness to deal with human depth. And that's actually what your soul has sent you here to learn. So this idea also calls up the assumption that some of us or some parts of us can have that if we are safe and we don't have pain, well, then we're doing it well and we're good people. We've done something correctly. Which then brings up the idea of karma as reward and punishment, which I do not teach that at all. Karma is beliefs wrapped around emotions. So we vibrate pain wrapped around beliefs, or joy wrapped around beliefs about why the joy occurred or why the pain occurred. The things vibrate into existence in front of us to deal with them. So if you have been watching this series of videos on grief and you're saying, yeah, I guess I don't really grieve much. I don't know how to do it. Or do I want to do that? Do I want to take these invitations? Do I want to admit this and allow that? It's up to you. You're either going to do it now or you're going to do it later. Like, to be blunt, you can't avoid the growth opportunities your soul has laid out for you. And you can't stop the buried pain karma bubbles from surfacing to be healed. You're in the natural state of your consciousness as a soul is loving. So things that are not loving or have inscriptions or labels or stickers on them in your field. I have this image of like picking lottery numbers on little balls out of a big, or bingo numbers, right, out of a big thing, a big container full of different balls. That you can't prevent your true nature as loving consciousness. You can't prevent that. So you can't stop things from coming up to be healed. They will naturally do that. So at some point you're going to have to deal with grief. Okay. So how long does it take? Nobody knows. Can I live my life anyway? Yes, you can. Like sometimes when we really go into sadness and sorrow and grief, we can't be there for other people. And we can't do stuff like remember when to write that check and mail the letter. Sometimes we get consumed like that. What I would love for you to do is to get accustomed to living your life while allowing in gradual bits the grief to come up. Accepting that for the next few days or weeks or a month or two, maybe I'm going to feel like this. Let me not deny it, but let me also try to live my life. Let me try to not, go into hiding from myself or my loved ones or my colleagues or my clients, whatever. Let me attempt to, it's not multitasking, but let me attempt to remember different modes and go back and forth. So some clients, some of my clients and students know this about me, that I deal quite often with grief as an underlying reality to my entire life. I mean, I have I have a memory of being in kindergarten and spontaneously bursting into dance because I was joyful. But by the next like year and a half, so when I was 7.5 or 7 years old, I got very sad, and this grief was there, and I wasn't joyful, and I was a stick in the mud, and lots of things would make me cry, and it's just like Pluto in the 12th house. There might be a lot of grief, right? And what I've had to learn how to do is to listen to those parts of me and then essentially table them and say, okay, so that's happening, but I have this client call in a half an hour and I'm going to be there for my client. And then I transition out. Sometimes it's immediate. It used to take a half an hour, a long time, But now it's more like I get grounded. I put my energy, get my energy down to my feet and it's spread out through my body. And I also use Moldavite quite often when channeling. So it's like a physical, energetic reminder. Oh yeah, so I'm going to do that for somebody. And then it has happened in the past, especially the last couple of years, um, where I've been very emotional about something. And it's like, oh my God, I have 12 minutes till this phone call with this person. And I say, okay. And I just table it. I don't deny it. I don't shove it. I don't shame it. I'm like, oh, okay, let me focus on this nice person. And I'll pull up the chart and I'll just kind of like collect myself. I'll get grounded. I'll pick up the Moldavite and then I'm able to do that. And it's sometimes within 2 minutes of hanging up, I'm back to that other emotion. So to some people that might look imbalanced and crazy, but it's more like I'm learning over time how to manage my field and my emotions and my energy. So I'm letting myself feel, and then I'm also saying, yeah, but I also have to function. And you might think, well, Tom, doesn't that prolong the grieving? Not really, because the more that I acknowledge what I'm feeling, the more comfortable parts of me are to unwind, to be recognized and validated and heard. The problem is if I shame it or if I'm afraid of it. And the last thing I'll say here is also with the gentleman today, my client, his guides are giving the image of him being in an anteroom or a waiting room, but like for an extended period of time. And so there was an other life story about that feeling of being kind of stuck in between things, around limbo or something. And so the last thing I'll say is that about this video, how long does it take? You might feel like you're waiting. You might feel like you're waiting a long time. You might even try to change the circumstances of certain things when you're grieving or realizing you need to really process through something. And your brain will say, but I need to be able to change this. I must, I have to, I can't do. Your brain, your egoic self will try sometimes, and some of you may try to cut off the process and sit there and like bounce your knee, you know what I mean? Like nervousness. Um, or touch your face and think about how often you're touching your face, whatever like your brain does, right? Trying to distract you from whatever feeling you don't want to have to feel. So when you say I'm going to go into grief, it might not be that you get to just like walk through a door and then over a few days something you might feel stuck in a waiting room for months. You might because parts of you need to know that they can express. So again, you listen to them, you remember they are not who you are, you get grounded, you do energy work techniques. You can check out the 22 days, the 22 channel meditations, the energy work meditations I made available for free. I'll link in the description here again, as with the other grief videos, the other COVID-19 videos. So thanks for your attention. Thanks for your time and energy. And you can check out the resources I linked to in the description and see what I'm up to at tdjacobs.com. And if you go into grief and you feel that heaviness and it's prolonged, read through healingsuicide.com as well. So you can get a sense of how to understand why certain pains occur and how to deal with certain emotions that may lead us to feeling despair. Okay, take care of yourself.